I'm Chanel Scott, the queen of relationship talk.
I'm Josh Powell, two-time NBA champion.
I've journeyed from trauma to healing.
From the NBA to family, I've learned what really matters.
We've come together to unlock the secrets of successful relationships.
One conversation at a time.
One conversation at a time. Welcome to Relationships Matter. I'm Chanel Scott.
And I'm Josh Powell.
So guys, this is part 2 of our episode with Bambi. The conversation was so good that we had to take it into a second episode. So reflecting back, I'm just reflecting on what we spoke about on the last break in terms of a clip that I released where they had me on record saying that I'm not going to leave my significant other, partner, husband, even if he cheats, but I'm going to make his life miserable. Yeah. And people had a lot to say about that statement. But since then, I've had a newfound revelation. Mm-hmm. There is a process where we will make each other miserable. And that process of trying to make it work, but I do not agree in staying and making him miserable. Yeah. Like making the decision to stay, knowing that it's not working out. I don't agree. And I think that most times when people do that, it's because they don't know who they are. Yeah. They don't know their identity, and they attach their value to that other person, so they don't know how to leave, right? They actually love that person more than they love themselves.
Absolutely.
Can I throw something in? Because that's a valid point.
Throw it in.
When there's no children involved, mm-hmm. right? But when there's children involved, and that's what she was speaking about, like mm-hmm. the things that we'll do for everybody else but self. Mm-hmm. Now back to you.
What?
The things that we'll do for everybody else but self. So basically, I'll stay because of the lifestyle.
Right.
I'll stay because of the kids. I'll stay because I like mom. I'll stay because it's comfortable.
Right.
Everybody or everything else but self.
Right, but then the motivation behind staying is all wrong.
Exactly. I just wanted to piggyback. That was all.
You just wanted to piggyback?
That's it.
Oh, okay.
See, I agree with you. You know what I'm saying? I don't want no problems. Go ahead. Bring it on in, Sam. Bring it on in.
Well, I really appreciate you being able to change your position, because I feel like in the space we're in and like this social media age, they don't allow growth for people, because they'll take something that you said or did months ago, years ago, and that clip will resurface and they'll be like, well, she said this then. But I think it's important and it's very healthy for us to learn and grow and change our positions on things. And that's like a huge part of growth. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Being able to change your position and your opinions on things.
Right. Absolutely.
So I respect that.
It's because that's all I knew. Yeah. Right. And I didn't even, to be honest, thinking back on it, I didn't even feel that way in that moment, but reflecting on maybe a previous situation, that was the mindset that I had. And so I brought it into the current space. But when you take me out of that conversation and I think, no, if I am not happy, if I feel like I'm not being treated, I am out the door. And I'm good with that.
You would be surprised at how many women and men will give that advice. Like even me, when I was going through my situation, so many people were like, well, he still wants to be with you, and you need to just let these bitches know that he's going to choose you every time. And I was just like,
but at what cost? Like, how much I gotta pay?
I am not in competition with these women. If that's where he dipped off to, then goodbye. Stay over there. You know what I'm saying? So, but it was surprising at how many people gave me that advice and was telling me like, hey, like if you say come back today, he's gonna come back today. So just let him and make them bitches gag. And I was just like,
what?
So what are your red flags today?
My red flags today,
considering this process, your marriage, how your life has been on display for everybody to see. Yeah. Like if you could look at everything as a whole, right? And your mother too, you know what I'm saying? You talked about your beautiful girls. Yeah. Like if you could sit them down, if they were at an age, what would you tell them?
So
things to look for.
It's very important to understand the impact of like a person's upbringing, right? So a lot of us did not come from like Huxtable, that type of cookie cutter lifestyle, right? But if you're dealing with somebody and they come from like this crazy family and they haven't been able to unpack that shit and deal with it and really understand the trauma that they're dealing with based on, their upbringing, that's a red flag. Because it even took a while for me to realize that I had some trauma to unpack. But once you realize it and you can start dealing with it, to me, that's not a red flag. It's because what happened, what went on, and now you're trying to deal with it and unpack, and you're not going to be projecting onto other people. So for me, that's like the most important thing. Like, where did you come from? Who are your parents? What happened? You know what I'm saying? And how are you dealing with this right now? That's like the number one thing for me. And when it comes to just dealing with men, I have been so blessed to, I've been divorced for about 6 months or something. Like, I filed for divorce over like a year. The process was very quick, right? We got divorced like 6 months after I filed for divorce. So it's been a little over a year since I knew we were getting divorced. But I didn't really start dating people until like recently. And I have been meeting so many people that have shown me like, this is what people are supposed to do when they're like entertaining or dating other people. You know what I'm saying? Like, just the leadership qualities in men, just the fact that people are considerate of you. And I said something the other day. I was like, I went on a date the other weekend and I did not have to use a single brain cell at all. I was just like I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to think about nothing. I didn't have to think about where we gonna go. Are you gonna book the flight? Are you gonna do this? Are you gonna it was just nothing. And for me, it was just a breath of fresh air. And again, I know I'll be kind of like straying a little bit, but to go back to that, like, red flags for me, the family, the background, men not really having leadership qualities, and just running away when things get a little hot. You know what I'm saying? Because life is like up, down, we all over the place. It's never going to be perfect. So if you cannot sit here and like stand in it when things are heated, then what do I need you for?
I got a question for you.
Sure.
Because scrappy is scrappy, right? Mm-hmm. Do you think you turned a blind eye to like maybe the lack of leadership skills, or maybe some of the other red flags that were very evident before you got married?
Yeah.
But because he was himself.
Well, it wasn't necessarily that he was himself, because, I had dated other men who were themselves too. And, but for me, I think it was me like having a little bit of low self-esteem, because those other men who I was dating, they did have their shit together. They could just be like, hey, we finna do this. And I wasn't ready to receive that. You know what I'm saying? It was me needing to kind of like feel like I was like a little bit in control. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I picked him because he needed shit. And I could help him with stuff. So like these other men who had their shit together, I'm like, what am I going to do for you? Low self-esteem. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't ready. I was not ready. Yeah.
Let me ask you this. What was it that attracted you to him? Because we talked about like, it was in general, you generalized, but lack of leadership, things of that nature.
I was so together, right? My life, like everything together. And I had just come out of a relationship. I was engaged to some guy, and he was like super together too. Like everything just together, everything by the book, and I moved here to Atlanta, and then it was just kind of like, it was immature. You know what I'm saying? It was just like kind of like the fast pace, like, oh, he's drinking, we over here, we do it. Like, it was very You know, it was immature. It was fun, but I chose him for all the wrong reasons. And it's kind of like how when you keep your kid confined, you know, you keep your daughter in the house, like they're just on lockdown, and then when they get outside, they be like, what's going on? So that's kind of how it was when I moved here. Like, we just had so much fun, and we were so lit, and we were so... And I was just, you know, obviously it was like a physical attraction too. But yeah, it was not the right reason.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Josh is like, what the hell is happening?
We're going to take a break. Relationships matter. And we'll be back.
Damn, Josh, that's a lot to
Why you
unpack,
look like
huh?
that?
I feel like you judging me, bro.
Relationships matter. Relationships matter.
Welcome back to Relationships Matter. So before we went to break, Josh, you had something that you wanted to share.
You look stressed out.
I'm not stressed.
Okay.
I think this conversation is beyond beautiful and necessary. But I do think the reason I didn't say much on the last segment is basically like when you listen enough, and that's why I said a while ago, like you get the answers. And to hear you, but that was the reason why I kind of like threw my head back, because it's like when a woman shows accountability, it's followed with a but. And typically we got to take a few jabs on the way down, even if you're saying like, hey, I know what I did. You know what I'm saying? But it was powerful to hear you say, like, I had this situation, it was going on, maybe bored you or whatever the case may have been, but hey, this was something that was exciting and there was a need. But I also think it's a good thing to acknowledge, like, a woman in your natural state of wanting to nurture or do certain things doesn't have to be like villainized. Yeah. It's just, you wouldn't say that if the person that you was with, you felt that it was reciprocated the way that it needed to be. You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
Because typically, like, why should you feel a way about wanting to serve your partner or wanting to do something for them or treating them a certain way or whatever the case
It's the
may be?
motive behind it. It's not the act.
I'm stating the healthiness of it. It's not necessarily the other things that follow. You know what I mean? So when she was just talking about all the things that she was talking about, it was like that's cool. Like, that's refreshing to hear the amount of accountability. I will never judge, ever. So I apologize to you.
I want to clarify though.
No.
It's healthy when you have the right motive. Like I said, I've operated in that space, but it was a settle, right? It was because I wanted to be in a relationship. I knew he was fucked up. I knew it wasn't a good fit, but I didn't want to wait. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I've been single forever and this person had a few good qualities. But like when you shared the reasons behind, you said, you know, I wanted to control it. I could just relate it back to my mom. Like, she's educated, counselor, but some of the men, it just didn't align. And I feel like being with someone who had that stuff together is like intimidating almost, because it makes you have to step up.
Absolutely.
And meet that.
But you see what the issue lies, though, because a lot of men are taking a bunch of pounding when a woman is making a choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because right, and that's the homie, you know what I'm saying? But I'm just trying to generalize everything because
So that's why you're taking it easy.
It's not a taking it easy.
He said that's the homie.
It's not what I'm saying is, for me, it's not a taking it easy thing.
Yeah.
There's right and there's wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I got love for you just like I got love for him. And I don't necessarily, I'm not his like day one or nothing like that, but in passing, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I'm just meeting you. You feel me? But I just have a love for people. So in these moments, in these conversations, and how we serve and help others is to get to the bottom of certain things and to really drive these moments home, because it's important, because we all have been there. There's no woman out here, and that's the thing that bothers me, is like, you'll beat a man up. And then if you listen long enough, well, I chose him because I knew I could do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
you can't be mad at him.
Period.
Do this.
Absolutely.
And you did that already.
Yeah.
So it's not like, I don't even have to go there, you feel me? But it's just a beautiful thing to be able to show the different styles of communication, to be able to get understanding, and then how we can move forward.
Sure.
I'm never going to judge because there's been a moment, and you might listen, it could have worked in a different way. You could have got with somebody who needed you, and y'all could have rode that thing to the sunset. The thing that I want other people to understand too is it may not look like how you want it to look.
Yeah.
But if you put forth the effort, because when we think of relationship, especially, I'm not in your shoes. I don't know what that's like to have a camera rolling, to be in front of millions of people, having your life put out for everybody to make judgment and all of that. I can only imagine. Now, I do have my, experiences, but I do think that it's beautiful when, instead of people looking at the glitz and glamour, that we can understand that relationship equals work. Like, we're putting relationship with love or relationship with companionship and all of these things, when the main thing that we need to put it with is relationships are work. And if two people can come together and be willing to do the work together, it doesn't matter your situation or your circumstance, because y'all are on the same page.
Absolutely.
Which, that's the other part that I heard from you. If I fall, I want to know he has me.
That
You know
part.
what I'm saying? And if I know he has me, hey, even if I'm in postpartum, I don't mind doing certain things because I know he has me.
That part.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's the part that I wanted to get to, but it just happened to be way later. You know what I mean? Because that's the important part too, is that when a woman does feel what she needs to feel, it doesn't matter what else is going on. You could be the breadwinner. You could be the person that's not the breadwinner. You could be taking care of everything. It wouldn't matter if you know he got you.
That's the part right there. And listen, me, like, doing the work while I was in it and while I was going through it, and even while I was going through the divorce, like, that's where all these journals and all this stuff came from, because I was just writing. I was dealing with myself. I was going through therapy. I was doing it. So now, even now, like, I meet people and they're like, so would you ever get married? Yes. Yes. Tomorrow. I'm ready. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I'm definitely going to get married again. And I'm definitely going to still be that person that just wants to pour into the person that I'm with, period. You know what I'm saying? Because this time I just feel like it's going to be different, because I'll see the red flags. I'll see, I'm not going to be dealing with people that I feel like are beneath me, and I don't feel like I'm codependent anymore. You know what I'm saying? I don't feel like I have a need to have to take care of somebody in order for that to be reciprocated. But I do love, like, serving and taking care of the people around me. So,
What does healthy look like
You
to you
said this
now?
time, you talked about the negative. This time, they will be pouring back into you.
Yeah.
Period. That's it.
Yes, that's it.
What does the healthy look like now? Because I definitely, because I know we've talked about so many different things, you know what I'm saying? It's all been amazing, but.
Healthy looks like everyone dealing with their own shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I can deal with my own stuff and not be projecting, and you can deal with your own stuff and you're not projecting, and we can come together and figure out how we're going to serve each other, that's healthy. So, but we can't put that pressure on our partners to, fix us. And we can't try to fix our partners.
I have a question for you in terms of talking about healthy, because one of my concerns is I've had my own trauma, and then I'm operating in this healthy place now. But my fear is that when I connect with a new person, this is what I'm going to ask you, like, how do you avoid displaying some of that old behavior? Like, my biggest fear is like, oh my God, I'm not going to trust because of what happened. And you never know, because there have been moments where I thought, okay, I'm healed, I've dealt with this behavior. And then you connect with someone and they bring it right on out. And you're like, I thought I dealt with this.
Yeah, well, I think it's about being, like, transparent. And again, like, it goes back to you, like, being able to deal with yourself and look at yourself and be like, all right, bitch, don't fuck this up. You know what I'm saying? He ain't him. You know what I'm saying? So for me, You know, I have had a few moments where I'd be like, you just trying to, and then, you know, if you're dealing with a healthy person, they'll say, no, that's not this. We're not doing that.
How are you going to deal with yourself moving forward?
I am going to make sure that I'm in a space where I'm not dependent on anybody for my happiness or anything that I need right now. I have been able to do that for myself. Like, I gave myself enough space and enough time from the moment I filed for divorce up until I started dating. I took care of myself. Like, I took care of myself inside and out. Like, all I did was make sure, you know, I'm eating healthy, I'm going to the gym, I'm journaling, I'm in counseling, I'm doing all these different things. So I feel like I gave myself enough time to figure out, like, okay, this is who you are, this is what you want, this is what you're gonna do, and it ain't about nobody else. You know what I'm saying? If they come into your life and they can add to what you already have going on, then that's okay. But I think it's really important for us to give ourselves that space to really truly heal. Because people say, oh yeah, I'm healed, I'm done, I'm over it. But you have not dealt with yourself.
Right.
Like, you have to really sit with yourself. Like, you can't be out here smoking and drinking and clubbing and partying. You really got to deal with yourself. You really have to do that. And I did that. And I'm so proud of myself for that, because I see so many people who go through these breakups, divorces, and all these things, and then you see them 2 days later, they in the club, they stand on the couches, they smoking, they drinking, they turned up, they on to the next. And like, when did you have time to deal with yourself?
Right.
When?
So I have a heavy question.
Sure.
Ask your question when we come back from break. Relationships matter.
Feel like we on Oprah.
Relationships matter. Relationships matter.
Welcome back to Relationships Matter. So before we went to break, Josh, you said you had a heavy question.
Yeah. Have you gave it any thought? Because I know you already said you're open. You definitely would be open to doing marriage again. But have you gave it any thought in regards to the transition and what that looks like, introducing your kids to a new man?
I don't mind someone meeting my kids, right? But if a relationship were to get serious, I still want my kids to be able to enjoy their space and the dynamic that we have like created and established in our home, and to be comfortable and free in that. And I think it would be a little unselfish to add somebody else to that equation, because when you're a step parent, you have little say so in, you know, what the other person does with their children, right? Ultimately, it's up to the biological parent. So I just wouldn't want to
Why do they have little say so?
Because it's like, you're now coming into our space and the kids are accustomed to, you know, the lifestyle that we have been living. And I just don't want to make my kids uncomfortable for, you know, someone else. And I would gladly date until, I don't care. I can date until my kids are old enough to move out. Like, I don't necessarily have to get married. I would love to, but if it's going to be at my kids' expense, I would just go ahead and just sit it out, because I've been a step parent. You know what I'm saying? And so I understand how hard that is for like the other person to come into somebody else's space. And now you're sharing this space with us. And it just, you know, it can be beautiful. You know what I'm saying? I've seen situations where it's like a beautiful thing. Like, my mom was a fabulous stepmother to my siblings that my dad had. But it was because my dad was so much of like a alpha male. And, you know, he's like, this is my wife, this is my family, you're going to respect this, and this is just what it is. And, you know, our house was just that way. But for another man coming into my space, that's kind of difficult to fathom right now, just in terms of my kids being able to be free and, you know, they got shit all over the place. And, you know, I don't want to invite somebody else into that chaos right now.
I was just trying to understand the messaging. Because when it was packaged, I was, you know. I know. I was hearing you're open to marriage, you're open to, you know.
I would love to, but again, just not at my kids' expense. And I can just see that
so your kids come first.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Hold on one second. Hi.
What's up, baby?
I'm doing this little podcast real quick, and guess what I answered? And they probably looking at me like I'm crazy. I'm sorry, guys. I'll call you in a few minutes, okay?
All right, baby.
Okay. Sorry, guys. Yeah, so, Delulu, that's me. Delulu.
Why you say that?
I probably shouldn't have answered that, huh? I probably should have been like, I'll call you back.
Probably.
All right. Yeah, it's
Is that a new situation?
Yeah, I like it too.
We know that.
Yeah.
But you're not repeating the same patterns because you felt the need to answer that call.
No, I am not repeating those patterns at all.
But for me as a man watching that, that's the part that would be confusing.
The established boundaries.
Oh, I should have just been like, I'm
not just that, but I mean...
School me.
I've been in a situation where I've dated a woman with kids. Mm-hmm. And I approached the situation by setting boundaries myself because I'm like, listen, I'm not here to replace nobody. I think we should move this way, and the list goes on and on and on, right? Mm-hmm. But when you're dating a person with intent, I don't know where you're at with it. I'm just saying at the moment that I was in after getting out of my divorce, when dating a person and being intentional, I put my partner, because I'm dating as if this is going to be my, you know, my person. So I have kids too, and that doesn't take away from my love for my kids or anything else.
Right.
But when I hear a woman say, well, my kids come first. Mm-hmm. When you get into a relationship or whatever that is that still going to be a thing where your kids come first?
That's a great question. I feel like when you get into a situation and you are truly with a person who is a leader and have the purest intentions for you and your life, and that becomes your spouse, I feel like you put God first, you put your spouse, you know, second. And then your spouse and you are on the same accord. So everything that's important to you is going to be important to your spouse. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, like if I got there with a person and they truly understood like, hey, I know that she loves her kids so much and she wants her kids to be free and to be comfortable and to be all these things, and we're truly on the same page with that, then of course they're going to come first because, you know, you're going to meet my needs. We're going to take care of each other and we're going to take care of these kids. You know what I'm saying?
You said meaning he will understand that the kids come first.
No. What I'm saying is I hate to put it like on a tier like that, like this comes first. But I think the idea is that if you and your spouse, like if you guys are together, a team, and you guys put God first and then it's you guys, of course, everything that goes along with how you feel, how your spouse feels, is going to trickle down to your kids are going to come first because your spouse is going to understand like how important it is for you to take care of your children, and they're just going to be on that same page with you, if that makes any sense. So when I say my kids come first, that just means, you know, I want them to be comfortable. I want them to be happy. I want them to be healthy. I want to make the best decisions for them. And if you have a partner who's on that same wavelength with you, then, you know, you can technically say, I'm going to put my partner first. But I don't even think there's a need to say who's first, who's second. It's just like we're a team and we're going to do what's important for our family.
It might be because of the mentality, though. So as we think if we do it.
Okay.
And, you know, it's funny, I scroll on Instagram, for example, and I watch profiles, right? Yeah. And I look for people that say, mother, wife, businesswoman, or whatever the case in that order. And I think in a sense it does matter because people will function in their relationships according to that order without even thinking about it. And that's why I ask you, because as you move forward and navigate, it's some things to kind of be on the back of your mind, because the other part, right, your kids are not going nowhere.
Right.
And I'm not devaluing or anything like that. But the new man comes in, right? And if you both value each other in that manner, then you show those kids. Because it's not just a you and him thing. It's also a co-parenting thing.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't even ask that.
Sure.
Because that's a dynamic in itself too.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And you're already kind of transitioning with that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't get tricky until other people are started to be added into.
That's the scary part.
And then it gets, right, it's definitely, it could be scary. And then it gets scary too, because when the kids go with dad and when the kids come with mom and then the kids come to you and they make statements and you like, it just gets tricky across the board. And that's why I just asked, because it's kind of like food for thought. You know what I mean? Like, you should definitely move on with your life as he should move on with his life. And y'all should be able to find peace and happiness and whatever it is that you're looking for. But in regards to the babies, and that's why I said it is a heavy question.
That is very heavy. I wasn't ready for that.
Because when we're in that moment, even right now, like, you know, you picked up the phone, it's like, hey, yeah, you know.
Josh, I ain't got all the answers, okay?
I'm not saying. I got 1,000 questions, though, because I want to understand.
I'm just trying to figure it out in the most...
Thank you for saying that, too, though.
Yeah, like, you know, I really am just trying to figure it out. I know what I want. I know what I don't want. But it's still kind of like everything don't really kind of tie in together, because yes, I want to be married, but I also want my kids to be comfortable and I want them to be, you know, happy and everything. But I also feel like it is important, like you said, for them to see me in a healthy situation. But I don't know. Don't
you think that'll make them happy though? If they see mommy?
Well, I think the question is, why would you think they wouldn't? You wouldn't pick someone that would make you uncomfortable or make the kids uncomfortable. Like, you wouldn't bring someone into the house.
Well, it's not even a matter of that person making the kids uncomfortable, because again, as I stated, like, I was a step parent and I was uncomfortable. Okay, so you know what I'm saying?
I want to get to that part, because it's based on your experience that
Absolutely.
Okay.
So it wasn't necessarily, you know, I don't want to bring someone else into a situation where they feel like they have to kind of like walk on eggshells. Like, you know, my kids have an active father. You know what I'm saying? They have, and my kids are very respectful. And, you know, I don't know. Like, it's a lot, because, again, like, I was very uncomfortable in my own home at times, because I felt like I had to kind of just tread lightly on a lot of things.
But because there wasn't established boundaries.
Absolutely.
And we are going to get to that when we get back from this break. Relationships matter.
Relationships matter. Relationships matter.
Welcome back to Relationships Matter. So before we went to break, we were talking about establishing boundaries around being a step parent. Talk more about that.
I think that for me, I really didn't understand, for one, like what I was getting myself into. And two, when I got in that space, I wanted to create like a very like loving environment. And again, it was still during that time where I considered myself to be codependent. So even when the stepchild was involved, it was me overcompensating on my end. It was just like, I was like wanting to make sure that it was like, hey, are you hungry? Do you want this? Can I buy you this? Can I do that? And it was just me just kind of like overly playing my part in a sense of, well, I just want to make sure she feels comfortable and she feels safe and, all of those things. But
why do you feel overly? Because you're speaking about the child on that, right? So why do you feel that you were like overly doing it instead of just
Were you trying? Was it a people pleaser? You know how you can.
I think it was a lot of that. But when I say overly, it's because now I have my own children, and I also have nieces that I've, kind of been in their lives, obviously, since they were born. And even with my nieces, like I would spoil them, but I wouldn't say it was like overly. I wasn't overdoing anything to try to, because they love me, like no matter what. And so I think I was trying to create, I don't know what I was doing. I was just doing the most, you know what I'm saying? And it didn't really feel good when, towards like the end of the relationship, it was just like,
because it wasn't being appreciated.
yeah,
It
wasn't. But what I did learn is that, okay, going back to the boundaries, I didn't establish or set any boundaries when it came to how I wanted to deal with the entire situation. It was just like me sitting in a corner, letting everybody do what they needed to do, and me kind of like staying out of it. People saw a different perspective on TV because obviously things are heightened for TV and, you gotta do the most or whatever. But when it came to our home, like I thought I was being really peaceful by just kind of staying out the way and just letting, my ex-husband deal with his daughter and her mom. And, I truly stayed out the way. But again, like people saw another side of it on TV because of course, we had to like heighten things. But I think that I made the mistake of trying to stay out of the way opposed to saying, hey, like I'm a part of this too. Like what we doing? You know what I'm saying? Finding a way to do that. I did not do that.
But was there space to do that? Did they create a space for you to do that?
No, it wasn't created, but I can't put all of that on them. You know what I'm saying? I had to, the next situation that I go into, I think I will be a lot more vocal and a lot more, a lot less of that imposter syndrome, feeling like I don't have a space or a voice here. I just got to let them do what they got to do. It was, again, like insecurity. I was just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. Like, I'm not going to say nothing. I'm just going, whatever. But, yeah.
So as an example, and I think that's good on what you're touching, because you're actually kind of touching on like what one of my questions would have been. But let's go a step further.
Yeah.
Let's say, for example, with the gentleman that you answered, let's just fast forward. Let's say this is 5 years from now.
Okay.
Right? What would be your advice to him in that situation? Because as you're talking to him, in a sense, it's like you're talking to self. So what would be, how could you tell him to be the best he could be in that situation?
Well, I think it's very different because I respect him and his opinions, and I think he's really mature. And I've seen him, he has like a healthy co-parenting situation with his kid's mom, and I have seen that, and it's very refreshing. And so I think the difference would be that I'm not like going back and forth with my ex. Like I don't have any type of, crazy energy for him or anything like that. So me respecting the person that I'm with and speaking to him about, what our goals are for our family and these children and all that stuff. I just think that it would just be a different dynamic because I respect him and I respect his opinions, and I am not going back and forth with my ex. You know what I'm saying? So I think him coming in and us, having a plan for our life, I'm going to respect it because I see how he moves in his own life. So, it's nothing scary about it. Like, I see how he takes care of his own kids, and I see how he respects, the mother of his kids. So there's no issue with me like taking something away from whatever he has to give me,
Based on where you are now with the relationship with your ex-husband, do you feel that the dynamic will continue to be the same if you both were in a position to introduce somebody to your children? Or do you think some things will change?
For me, I think it would probably be easier once he got into like a serious relationship with like a mature person, and because I would love nothing more than to communicate with this woman who's going to be spending time with my children, because I think that women kind of get it a little bit more. Not that men don't or can't, but I would just much rather deal with like a woman who's going to be, taking care of my kids when I'm not around, because I think she'll understand like, hey, like they need to brush their teeth at night, they need to get up on time to go to school in the morning. But when I'm saying these things to him, like he takes it as me trying to control his household or being combative or anything, when I'm just trying to remind you that, these things are important. They're important. I ain't trying to like...
Do you trust, will you ever be in a position where you could just let it be and then find out? How old is your oldest?
5.
So do you feel like you can trust that, okay, I'm just going to see what happens?
I do that.
Okay.
Because I can't control what goes on in his household, and I don't try to control it. I try to communicate and say, hey, like, the kids have A, B, and C going on. It would be helpful if you did this or that. And I think that's very healthy communication. It's not that I'm trying to control anything that's going on. But I do want to know, like, who's around my kid, who's watching my kid, because my kids are very, I don't want to use the word sheltered, but they've only had a few caregivers. So...
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
And I talked about that before, because it's funny, like when you show concern, it's like, or you want to know, people be weird about it, like, oh, you either trying to hate or why you worried about it? And it's like, listen, do you know statistics, the amount of people that bring in new boos who are beyond abusive, that are treating our kids, talking to our kids, all kind of stuff going on that we have no idea about, molesting our kids,
that part,
abusing, like, and I feel like we turned, especially, it happens in other communities too, but you don't hear about it as much as it does in our community. The secrecy. And for me, in my situation, secrecy was beyond damaging. The things that you learn that can happen. In some cases, it could be the new person. And in other cases, it can be the actual bio. You know what I mean? And that's the dangerous part. And people don't necessarily think of that in the moment, in real time, because you're putting how you feel above, or really actually trying to understand why is the person asking or feeling how they're feeling. You know what I'm saying? So thank you for sharing that, because that's really important, and it shouldn't be weirded out. Because it does take a village.
Absolutely.
You know
and
what I'm saying?
I don't care what it is that he wants to know about our children. Who are they with? What are they doing? I'm answering all the questions. I'm going down the line, because it's not offending me. Like, these are your kids too. So I am happy that you're concerned about their well-being. You know what I'm saying? And so, but I do try to just, I'm like, I'm going to pray about it. I'm going to let them go, because I can't control. And I made this decision knowing that my kids are going to have to go back and forth. So I'm just going to have to trust God on it. So.
She dropping. I love it, man. We're going to have more with this queen when we get back. Relationships matter.
Relationships matter. Relationships matter.
Welcome back to Relationships Matter. So, Bambi, I wanted to ask you about, so we see everything that's going on social media, right, in real time.
Yeah.
Right, but I want to talk to you about the co-parenting relationship in real time. Like, is what we see on social media consistent with what's going on in real life in terms of co-parenting? Because that got to be difficult.
Well, it is difficult in that I have always told him before, like when we were married and dealing with his daughter's mom, I'm like, you have to kind of stay on the same level, no matter what. Like the extreme highs and lows are not healthy. So you have to just kind of be on the same level with her all the time so that there's no blurred lines, right? So I use that advice for myself. And I'm always pleasant. I'm always, cordial, all of those things. But I understand that he has to deal with his stuff the way that he deals with it. So when he bashes me on social media and when he goes on these blogs and these podcasts and do all these things, of course, like it is a little hurtful. But then I'm just like, he got to go through it. Like this is his way of like releasing whatever. I'm not going to feed into it because my kids love their dads so much. And I truly do what's in the best interest of my kids. You know what I'm saying? So me going back and forth with him on social media, anything like that would not be conducive to me doing what's in the best interest of my kids. You know what I'm saying? So it's hard because, he has taken me back to court. Like we've only got divorced like 6 months ago. He wants to go back to court because I wrote a children's book, because I put my kids in extracurricular activities, and it's very petty. And so I have to really, really, really make it a point to be like, okay, you know what I'm saying? Like, here we go.
Go to court for what?
Because I wrote a children's book and I use the likeness of my children in the children's book. And I mean, the judge was just like, okay, like,
what?
Yeah. And then, he has final say when it comes to extracurricular. And he thought I enrolled my son in karate, but he just took a trial class. And so he's like, she put my son in karate. And I'm like, well, what if I did?
Yeah,
like,
what's wrong with that?
Yeah. And then, my daughters are in homeschool. And so he had a problem with that. And I'm just like, everything that he had an issue with was based on like the enrichment of like my children, right? So it was a little frustrating because it was around the holidays. I had to spend all this money, of course, on attorney's fees to go to court for something so stupid, So I say all that to say I have been receiving a lot from him, not only him, like his family, his friends, like everybody. And I have to continue to use the advice that I gave him initially, which is to stay on the same page. Like, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to fight with you when you come pick up the kids. If I have to be present, I don't know. Like, I may, or I may not, but I'm not going to be nasty because I just don't have that energy in me at all.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, before we end this segment, I want you to talk a little bit about the children's book and tell everybody where they can find it, and then also your journal. Talk a little bit about that as well.
So my children's book is called Mommy, I Want to Go Home. And when the divorce process first happened, of course, I moved into another home. The ex-husband, he moved as well. And so my 5-year-old, he was 4 at the time, he's just like, I want to go home. I want to go home. He was thinking that we still lived at the other house and his dad was there. And I'm just, it was really heartbreaking trying to like explain to him like, nah, like we don't live there no more. So I wrote this children's book and it was really cute because they love it and they want me to read it to them all the time. They're like, we're going to Daddy's house like in a couple of days. So it just kind of gives the parents and the kids some ideas of what to do. Like when you're missing your dad, we can look at his picture, we can draw a picture of him, we can write him a letter, whatever. Because a lot of families are going through these transitions and we don't really have anything to guide us sometimes. So that was the purpose of that book. And I have created a few different journals so that, people can really truly connect with themselves, or in this case, it's locked in like your partners. It's a space in there where, again, you can write and for a response, or you can just write for your partner to just read it and just don't respond. Just listen to what I have to say. Everything is on Amazon. I also have another book that actually just dropped today. It's called Unbothered. Wow. And yeah, it's just, showing people how to become emotionally intelligent and how beneficial that is in just life and just being a leader, just not responding to things in a way that is going to get you out of your character.
So give us a little tidbit of that.
Yeah, basically, it's, we live in a world today where it's easily, like, people are easily baited. We go on social media and somebody's saying, you ugly, you crazy, like, you're bitter, you're all these things. And it was just important for me to give people a true, just blueprint of what I've been dealing with and how I've been managing all these things by studying and trying and really practicing becoming more like emotionally intelligent. Like, no, I don't have to respond to that. Or if I do respond to this, let me take some time and, give a response that is not going to make me feel crazy tomorrow.
Right. All right. Well, Josh.
Them faces is crazy, Josh.
You have some closing words for us, sir?
I do. My heart was super heavy, you know what I mean? And first and foremost, I think it's just important to just say thank you, you know what I mean, for coming here, for being vulnerable and transparent, for sharing pieces of your soul with us. Mm-hmm. Like you really truly did, and you handle it well, but I feel like on the inside,
you're gonna make me cry a little
but
bit.
I feel like on the inside, you know what I'm saying, I know pain when I see it.
Yeah.
And I know it's not easy.
It is not.
And I just want to tell you, man, you're loved, man. I appreciate you. And I'm sure Chanel feels the same. I think the reason why it's so heavy for me is because I think you get tired, and I know for me, I get tired of watching people tear each other apart. And at one point in time, you love the person.
Yeah.
At one point in time, you shared your deepest, darkest moments. You shared your body. You shared love, a home. And then it just, for it to end with so much spite and bitterness.
Yeah.
And this is not directed at Scrap or directed at you, because both parties have an accountability piece.
For sure.
And when I'm talking to you, I'm talking to myself. Because I'm not taking away from your pain. I'm not taking away from his pain. But then I think about these kids that didn't ask to be here.
Yeah.
And we do things and we constantly pass down trauma or behavior. And that's the part that's hard. Like I got 7 kids.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. By 4 different women.
Wow.
And a lot of these things are a part of my daily battle. And I've been vocal about it. You know, I got a 17-year-old that doesn't want to have anything to do with me right now at this moment.
Mm.
But that's because the adults couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
Don't matter whose side.
Yeah.
Don't matter who's right or wrong.
Absolutely.
But she wasn't thought about in that manner. I think about the 3 kids with my ex-wife. I think about the pain and the hardships that they go through. I think about my 3-year-old, you know. So I didn't mean to go on this, you know, this rant, but I just really hope and pray that we can really figure out a way to come together. Yeah. And I mean that because, you know, I know Scrap not from, you know, up close like that, but I know him close enough, and I know what I've seen. I know what's come across my phone, and you know, I've had a chance to sit here with you for 2 hours and see the things that you had to deal with. And nobody's exempt, you know what I'm saying? But I just really hope that there can come a day where y'all can really find that place. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And figure it out. And the other dope part about it is, collectively, I'm sure y'all got 6, 7, 8 million people that follow y'all. How many ever? It's a blessing. Mm-hmm. But you're gonna help and heal so many people once y'all can figure that out. Yeah. And it'll be a great win for our community too.
Absolutely. I agree.
And you know, again, I just want to tell you thank you, you know what I'm saying, for taking the time to come here and to share and express that. Yeah. You know, that's powerful. Because,
thank you guys for having me.
Yeah. So thank you.
If anybody ever cried on y'all podcast, do people be crying on podcasts?
Every time.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, well, that was my first time. So, but no, thanks, guys. I appreciate it for real. I think, you know, these conversations are absolutely healthy and needed for other people. So,
absolutely.
I hope it helps somebody.
We'll make sure we support. You know, get your books, and if there's anything, I'm going to speak for you on this one if you don't mind, but if there's anything that we can do to support you, work on something together, go speak to some kids, whatever that looks like, because I know I deal with, you know, my parenting and co-parenting situation as well. And if we can really find a solution to that, it's gonna really change the dynamic in our households.
Yeah.
So please know you have a brother in me. I'm willing to help or do whatever's needed. And again, I apologize for being long-winded. I know that, you know, we're out of time, but, you know, I just wanted to say thank you, you know, again, and much love to you. Going to keep you in prayer for sure. Relationships matter. Beautiful conversation. We're signing off. Thank you.
Relationships matter.